Good morning, Warzone kids. This is going to be part 4, I think, in my little expert in healing series. I did the first 3 months ago, and this is the follow-up. I think about the relationship between science and the medical establishment, the mental health establishment, and the human situation that we're in. Warzone kids is my term for those of us like myself. I'm a child sex abuse survivor. As an adult, I live with borderline personality disorder. I'm a recovering addict and bulimic, and I have associated maladies like that. And I think of my soul, my psyche, who I am, as a Jenga tower. That game that starts off with a block of wood that's made up of smaller blocks. And with every turn in the game, you slide out one of the smaller blocks and you put them on top. And with every turn in the game, that tower gets a little bit less solid, a little bit less stable, a little taller, a little more rickety. And every game of Jenga ends the same way when that tower falls down. And I think of our psyche like that Jenga tower, and every little bit of harm, abuse, and neglect you have in your childhood is like a turn in that game where you take a piece out and you put it on top. And if you're an adult who was a Warzone kid, whether you're a child sex abuse survivor like this guy, maybe the harm caused you was a lot of physical abuse, not really part of my story. Maybe it was emotional abuse, psychological abuse, or harm. Those were a big part of my stories. Maybe it was societal harm, racial harm, gender harm. Maybe you grew up in an actual war zone. And maybe you got lucky and won the bingo card like a lot of us have, and you have several of those. Pick 3 from column A and 2 from column B, right? You probably know the drill. Well, you can be an adult and your Jenga tower can be such a tall, rickety, unstable thing that your entire life consists of your efforts trying to keep that thing from falling down. I can relate. I've been there. My Jenga tower's fallen down numerous times. And I think of healing as a process of rebuilding that Jenga tower and getting it back into a stable, solid form where I can move through life. That's what healing is to me. And I'm a volunteer circle keeper for Green Circles with Hidden Water. I'm a volunteer, I do not run the organization, I don't speak on its behalf. But we facilitate healing circles by and for those affected by child sex abuse. Green Circles are for the adult survivors who were those kids. We have circles for parents, we have circles for partners, and we have circles for those who've caused harm to children and are ready to take responsibility and make amends. We do that together. It's a human activity. Healing circles are a thing that emerged out of, as I understand it, out of the indigenous peoples of the United States, where after traumatic events, whether they be war, whether they be any kind of calamity like that, people got together and they healed together. They shared the experience together and they related. And you can turn your back on, let's pick a really conservative number and say 20 or 30,000 years, to use a sciencey number. You can turn your back on something that's emerged out of 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 or 200,000 years of human experience if you want, and say, well, that ain't sciencey enough. Yeah, okay. Well, I've got 4 children. They're all mine. I did not have any of them. That was up to my ex-wife. She did the birthing part. And I was there for all 4 births, and they were something to behold, a real privilege and a real honor. There's no other way I could have had that experience, and those are the 4 best days of my life, by a long stretch. Now, the first one we had in Oklahoma, and it was a full medical experience, benefiting from the full 21st century level of knowledge of how to birth a baby, ignoring the previous couple 100,000 years worth of wisdom about it. But we went to the hospital. There was anesthesia. There were spinal blocks. There was a physician. Matter of fact, when the pushing time came, the pushing time came, and what did the nurse tell my wife? Hold on, the doctor's on her way. She'll be here soon. Don't push yet. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But my ex-wife implemented that. And we waited for the doctor to get there. And the doctor did all the doctory, physician-y, science-y things. such as including saying, oh, well, sometimes there's tearing when you have a child. So to ameliorate that, we're going to take these garden shears and just clip the whole thing open. Ugh. Well, it was a very sciencey experience, taking full advantage of all the modern conveniences and modern wisdom about how to have the baby. The baby was healthy and we had a great time. And everything happened as it should, despite all that. Now, we moved to Vermont after that first child, and one of the things I like about Vermont is that there's a lot of midwives up here. A lot of them. Can't swing a dead cat without hitting a midwife. We still went to the hospital to take advantage of the sciencey stuff, like immediate first response. 90-something% of childbirths, I'm making that up, the overwhelming majority of childbirths go off without a hitch. If something happens in the course of childbirth, you're going to have to respond to it real quick. The things that are going to go wrong in a childbirth are going to need a fast response. And I did not want, neither of us wanted that to include getting in a car and driving through the mountains. It might be snowy, who knows what. We did not want to deal with that. We went to a hospital. But the midwife that we worked with, beautiful, gifted woman that she was, made sure to keep the doctor away. There was a doctor around in case we needed a doctor. There were a couple nurses there. And there was a tub there. For 2 of my children, they were born in a tub underwater. It was amazing. That experience was a human experience. I was the only man in the room. I was very privileged to be there. It was a human experience. There were women who'd gone through this experience, midwifing those babies into existence, out of my ex-wife into the rest of the world. They knew their business. They'd had the experience. They knew how to relate. They knew how to coach me up so that I could be something other than a fly on the wall, and I could offer the support that I could offer. And I did my best. And those babies came out. And they came out in a very human way, in a very human experience. That was light years different than the medicalized one recommended by the experts. I remember when I was a child in the 80s, Gen Xer, I'm from Oklahoma, born in 1974. And I remember as a child in the 80s what childbirth was like from a far distance. What childbirth was like then was you were in the hospital for something like a week. Often there was complete anesthesia. Spinal blanc, can't move, lay down flat in that bed. Wait on the doctor. We got a chart here that says how long things are supposed to take. Wait your turn. It ain't time for that yet. We're going to hustle it up. I got golf to do. I got a church to go to. My first child was born, and they told us to wait for the physician to get there because the physician was busy getting dressed for church. Wait to push. Now, I don't have those parts. I've never had a human being inside of me. But I was there, my ex-wife did, and waiting to push is not a piece of advice that would ever recommend itself to me. When the pushing time comes, it's time to push. It's not time to wait for someone to get dressed and get the hairspray in. It ain't time for that. It's time to push. We got other things to do. We got other fish to fry. So I reflect on that and the wisdom of modern science that resulted in women having to give birth flat on their back in a hospital bed with people acting like something was wrong with them. Let's put a curtain up. Put a curtain up so the only people in the room that can't see the baby being born is the mother and father. That's insane. Insane. You've completely lost the thread of what's happening here. No. That's expertise run amok to my eyeballs. That's what expertise looks like when you forget that it's a human experience with human beings doing a human thing. Matter of fact, I would say the most human thing that conceivably could happen is birthing a baby. What are you going to put on top of that? No. Expertise run amok. Expertise that's lost the thread. Expertise that's lost the fact that these are human psyches and human lives at stake here. If you're a war zone kid like this guy, if you're a child sex abuse survivor, and you're turning to experts in healing, it's very easy to find yourself cut off from your own humanity. Do this, do that. Here's 3 ways you're doing it wrong. It's insane. The circles I do in Hidden Water, we sit around, usually 8 of us child sex abuse survivors for 12 weeks, for a few hours, once a week, and we learn how to sit with each other. We learn how to share in order to be understood and to listen to other people in order to understand them. And we offer our human companionship, and we learn how to forge human connections, because for many of us, this guy very much included, I never felt a real human connection until the first circle that I did. How do I know that? Because I felt it, and it was a feeling I'd never felt before in my life, nor nothing close to it. I could relate to these people. I spent my entire life alienated from everyone and everything. And here were people I could relate to. There were some men, they were mostly women, and I thought, oh, these women are just tolerating my presence. They don't want me here. They're not going to be able to relate. And if they can relate to anything I'm saying, it's only going to be like an abstraction, because the things on my mind are a lot about being a man, I thought. And I learned how to share my human experience, what my life was really like to me. And I remember several times, heart pounding, hands shaking, couldn't get the words out of my mouth. And I thought, I'm just going to take my chances that these women are not going to reject me for being a man or for talking about stuff that they can't relate to. And what I found was that no matter what I said, no matter how personal it was, no matter my views, that it was all about being a man and my manly responses and that kind of thing. Anytime I shared something from my heart, I saw those 7 other faces on the little Brady Bunch Zoom screen nodding. They knew exactly what I was talking about, generally from their own firsthand experience. They could relate perfectly. And the same with them. There's not anything that anyone has said in any circle I've been to where I thought, nah, I don't know what you're talking about. That's a woman thing. It's a human thing, Pilgrim. It's a human thing. I'm a human being. We are fellow human creatures. So I think about the fact that those 3 children of mine, my younger 3 children, were born, came into this world in a hospital, yes. In the vicinity, there were physicians and equipment and instruments and dials and knobs and stuff that beeped and all that, ready to hand. The midwife was a nurse. There were a nurse and an LNA in the room. They were all women. I was a man. We were near by to the support we could get from the experts, but we were having a human experience. You hear the phrase safe space? Life ain't safe. But we made a secure perimeter in that little room. And I love that midwife because she made sure the doctor stayed out. She told that doctor, stay out. If we need you, we'll call on you. We probably ain't going to need you, but if we need you, we'll call on you. Stay out. And the doctor stayed out. We made a secure perimeter so that we could have a human experience. That's what we do in our circles. There's nothing safe that happens in a circle. It's all volatile. It's hazardous. It's powerful. And we need a secure perimeter. We're in a circle. What happens when you stand in a circle is you can all look over each other's shoulder and you can see if anything's sneaking up on you. You can make a secure perimeter for that human experience. That's on my mind today when I think about experts in healing. We can learn a lot. I'm not an anti-science guy. I'm a college librarian by training. I love me a thick book. I love knowledge. I love learning things. I'm a human being before I'm any of that. And human life is about that. It's about human life and the human experiences we share. I'm going to put a link to Hidden Water in the description of this video, if you're a child sex abuse survivor, get on the waiting list. If you're still watching this and you're a child sex abuse survivor, get on that waiting list. See what it's like. Have a human experience. And if you're not, if that ain't something you can do, that's why I put this stuff out. I can relate with you. I promise you. Whatever's on your mind right now, take it as an article of faith that I can relate. It's a beautiful day on the trail to the Western lands. That's what I think of as healing. The Western lands, a place of peace and wholeness where we learn and become what we are as fellow human creatures. It's a beautiful day on the trail, pilgrims. Day lies burning. Let's get a move on.